Chapter 1. I had read stories about this kind of thing happening. I always assumed it was just fiction and nothing like it would ever really occur, at least not to me. So, imagine my surprise the other evening when my wife of nearly 20 years told me over dinner, "Honey, we need to talk." My heart leaped into my throat, and I immediately tensed up, preparing for the worst. Had she cheated on me? Did she want a divorce? What could it possibly be? Where had we gone wrong? I stared across the dinner table at her, my hands shaking. "Talk?" I asked, trying my damnedest to sound calm. "Talk about what?" "Well, first of all, I want to tell you that I love you," she said, then took a sip of wine as if she were using it to settle her nerves. I noticed she hadn't eaten much at all. I stared at her, trying to analyze her movements, her facial expression, anything to give me some clue about what was coming. I couldn't take the stress very long and blurted out, "Have you cheated on me, Maggie?" Her face twitched, and she looked at me with big, surprised eyes. "No, of course not," she replied. "I would never cheat on you." Although the way she stressed the word cheat made me nervous, I think I let out a sigh of relief. "Well, if it wasn't cheating, what could it be?" "Are you leaving me?" I asked, fearing the worst. "Oh, God, George," she said, "where are you getting these ideas?" "Of course, I'm not leaving you. I love you." "Good," I responded, "I love you, too. I plan on growing old with you and spending the rest of our lives together." Maggie's eyes lit up, and she gave me a warm smile. "So do I, George." "Then, what is it? Are you unwell?" I asked, growing concerned for Maggie's health. "I'm fine, honey," she assured me. "I didn't mean to alarm you, but it's just that I feel like something's been missing between us for a while now. With Meredith off to college, things just seem different. Maybe it's empty nest syndrome or midlife crisis or something, but we seem to be stuck in a bit of a rut." I felt myself relax a little, but I was still apprehensive, wondering what in the world was bothering Maggie. "A rut? How so?" I asked. "Well, we spend so much time with work that we have little time for each other. Your job takes you out of town frequently, and my job often keeps me late at the office. When we're not working, we're both tired. When was the last time we had sex?" "When was the last time we had sex?" I repeated her question. I honestly couldn't remember the last time. Maggie had not wanted to have sex for quite a while. I had to settle for jerking off, alone, for months. It's been a while, but every time I initiate anything remotely sexual you shut me down. You've always got one excuse or another. "Right," Maggie agreed, "I know. I'm usually tired as hell when you feel frisky. But, when we were young, we didn't care if we were tired. We have sex 3 or 4 times a week. Now, it's like once every 3 or 4 months. "If that," I replied, agreeing with her. "And?" I was growing irritated. It sounded like she was blaming me for the lack of sex when she was the one who always said no. If it had been up to me, we would have been doing it often. "And, well, I want to get out of this rut we're in," she said. "I want to fix things between us to ensure we can stay together for the rest of our lives. We're bored, George. We need to get unbored." "I'm not bored," I told her. "I've got plenty of excitement in my life." "Excitement? Really? What are you going to do tonight?" she asked me with a crooked grin. "Watch The Curse of Oak Island. They're saying tonight they make a big discovery," I answered as I thought about her comments. "Don't they say that every week and all they ever find is mud and bits of wood?" "Well, yeah," I admitted. "More or less." As I said, she grinned, "Boring." "Okay, that's not boring. It's comfortable. We're comfortable. That's what happens when you've been married as long as we have. You get comfortable." "I don't want comfortable," Maggie explained. "When we were first married, you would ravish me nightly. You haven't ravished me in years." "Is that it?" I asked, setting my fork down. "Do you want me to ravish you? Pull down your pants and bend over the table. I'll ravish you now." "That's not exactly what I was thinking of, George." To be honest, I have just as little interest in having sex with you as you have to do it with me. It's just where we are in our lives. We've lost the spark, and that's what worries me. We're still in our 40s. We have a lot of years left. I'm afraid that if we've lost this much romantic interest in each other already, what will we have left in a few more years? How will we be able to stay together? We'll stay together because we're husband and wife. That's what husbands and wives do. We're used to each other. We're comfortable. And who says I don't have interest in having sex with you? Of course, I do. We've become roommates, George, comfortable roommates. I think we're more than roommates. I mean, we do have sex now and then, and we do love each other. So, we're roommates with infrequent benefits. Yes, I do love you, George, and I know you love me. But, can you honestly tell me you're still in love with me the same way you were when we got married way back in the Stone Age? It's different, I tried to explain, like a fine wine. Our love has matured and mellowed over the years. We're older, and our libidos are not as active as they once were. But they could be, she said, taking my hand. Don't you want to be excited and feel the thrill of chemistry again, like we used to? I don't know, Maggie, I kind of like how things are now. I mean, sure, I'd love to have sex more often, but I like coming home and hanging out with you, calmly and peacefully. We've worked a long time to get to where we are. It's like that damned hammock in the backyard. It's been back there for almost 20 years. Every year I kept telling myself that one day soon I'll be able to just lay out there, relax and read a book. Well, now when I'm to the point where I'm finally about to lay down in the thing, you're telling me you want to get rid of the hammock. Maggie pondered my words before responding, shaking her head slightly. I don't quite follow, but I'm not asking you to sacrifice anything, dear. What I'm suggesting is that we need to reignite the spark in our relationship, to inject some excitement back into our love life before it's too late. My libido isn't non-existent, it's just been dormant. I want us to feel the same passion we had when our intimacy was new and thrilling, when we couldn't get enough of each other. So, are you implying that our intimacy isn't fulfilling anymore? No, not at all. You're an amazing lover, caring and skilled. You always know how to please me, and I've never once faked an orgasm with you. It's not that our intimacy is lacking, it's just that we seem to lack the desire to engage in it. Could you clarify? I inquired, feeling puzzled. I'm a bit confused. I'm saying I want more. It feels like we've lost the romantic aspect of our relationship. We've become more like partners than lovers. I want to feel loved by you again, to feel the passion between us. I want romance, desire, and yes, I want intimacy. But you mentioned earlier that you didn't want intimacy. Do you or don't you? I want intimacy. It sounds like you're yearning for our youth again. Is this perhaps hormonal? Are you experiencing hot flashes? Please, George, don't dismiss my feelings or reduce them to hormonal fluctuations. Just because I'm expressing my desires doesn't mean I'm going through menopause. I apologize, you're right. That was insensitive of me. I'm simply trying to grasp the suddenness of this revelation. Honey, it's not sudden. I've been contemplating this for a while. I'm worried that if we don't take serious steps to rejuvenate our relationship, it won't survive. Tears welled in her eyes, and her words struck a chord with me. Truth be told, we had been coasting along for some time. If this isn't sudden, I retorted, frustration rising, why are you only bringing it up now? Why didn't you talk to me about this sooner? It's taken me time to come to terms with it, she explained. But I'm addressing it now because I don't want it to fester any longer. Her distress was evident, and her words resonated with me. I loved Maggie deeply, and I was willing to do whatever it took to nurture our relationship. Okay, I'm all ears. It's clear this means a lot to you, and I want to address it. What should we do? Should we consider counseling? I've heard about intimacy coaches. Is that something we should explore? Those are excellent suggestions, she replied, a glimmer of hope in her eyes as she wiped away a tear. Thank you for being open to them. I think we should explore those options. And I have some ideas of my own. Like what? Well, First, let me ask you something. Your company is a creative agency, right? You often mention how skilled you all are at what you do. Yes, we're among the top 2 in the state, probably within the top 5 nationally. Why do you ask? How does that relate to our relationship? Do you hire the best talent? Absolutely, we always strive to bring in top-notch individuals. And how many of them have been with the company for, let's say, 20 years? None, actually. Our company is relatively young, only 6 years old. We're constantly refreshing our team with new perspectives and skills. It's quite common in our industry. Ah, so you're continuously integrating new talent, bringing in fresh ideas and approaches? Yes, precisely. We pride ourselves on our innovative culture and adaptability. And these new team members inject new energy and skills, ultimately enhancing the company's performance. Exactly. It keeps us at the forefront of our field. George, in a couple of weeks, we'll celebrate our 20th wedding anniversary. We were exclusive for 3 years before that. And all this time, neither of us has strayed. You were my first, and as far as I know, you've had only a couple of serious relationships before me. That's correct, I replied, feeling a sense of apprehension creeping in. But what's the point? Well, would you hire someone at your company who relied solely on skills they learned 23 years ago without seeking further development or staying updated with new techniques? Would your company thrive if everyone operated on outdated practices, occasionally revisiting their duties? Absolutely not, but that's work-related. Our relationship is different. Where are you going with this? I'm trying to draw a parallel. 23 years ago, we had a vibrant, dynamic connection. We were adventurous and passionate, exploring new territories together. But then life happened. We became parents, professionals, busy with various responsibilities. We excelled in our roles as parents and professionals, but we neglected to evolve and grow as partners. We remained stagnant, relying on the same routines and techniques we mastered decades ago. It became monotonous, lacking the excitement and thrill it once had. What exactly are you suggesting, Maggie? I'm saying I'm tired of settling for comfort, George. I crave excitement and growth. I want to rediscover the passion we once shared by exploring new avenues, learning and evolving as lovers. I want to reignite the spark that has dimmed over the years. I want to be in love again, to feel alive with desire. I need that passion back in our lives. Okay, I managed to say, my voice shaky with uncertainty. I couldn't tell if it was fear or a surge of adrenaline coursing through me. Perhaps it was a mixture of both, my body preparing for fight or flight mode. I'll do whatever it takes to reignite our passion. We can have regular date nights, pursue shared hobbies, and travel more often. You love exploring new places, so why don't we plan a getaway each month, even if it's just a night at a trendy hotel in town? Maggie clasped my hand in hers, offering a soft smile before shaking her head. George, I appreciate your willingness to try, but those efforts, while thoughtful, may not be enough. They're comfortable routines that won't fundamentally change us. We need something more. I'm following your train of thought, but now you're losing me. What exactly are you suggesting? Are you proposing we experiment with something like visiting a swingers resort? Absolutely not, she replied, her expression twisted with distaste. I couldn't bear the thought of being in such an environment. That's not what I'm suggesting at all. Then what do you have in mind? I inquired, my frustration mounting. I believe we need a jolt, something to shake us out of our routine and infuse our relationship with novelty and excitement. We need to revitalize our romance and reignite our passion. At this point, I was prepared to entertain any idea she presented. That sounds intriguing. How do you propose we do that? I think I should start seeing other people. I recoiled at her suggestion, instantly rejecting it. Anything but that. Chapter 2. Whoa, hold on, I interjected, withdrawing my hands and regarding my wife with furrowed brows. Say that again, I must have misheard. I said I'm considering dating other people. Right, got it. And you're serious about this? Completely serious. I've put a lot of thought into it, George. I genuinely believe it could benefit us. Maggie, you've had some unconventional ideas in the past, but this takes the cake. I don't see it that way, George. If you let me explain, you might understand where I'm coming from. Please, enlighten me. Explain how your solution to improving our marriage and reigniting our passion involves you dating other men. I'm not talking about cheating, George. It's not about that at all. You want to go on dates with other men. Like proper, romantic dates? Yes, exactly. Dates as in dinners, movies, the whole 9 yards, just like if we weren't married? That's the idea, yes. So, are you planning to sleep with him on the first date, or are you going to make him wait like you did with me? Maggie, I never mentioned anything about sleeping with him. But you mentioned a real, proper date, like we're not married. And on real dates, people often end up having sex. So, are you ruling out sex with your dates completely? Well, not necessarily. So, you're open to the possibility of sleeping with them? I didn't say that. I just mean I'd like to see how things progress naturally. Progress into what? Are you looking to have relationships with these guys? You're twisting my words to suit your narrative, George. Answer me straight, Maggie. Would you have sex with these guys? She hesitated. It's not so straightforward. Yes or no? I suppose it's a possibility, yes. And you don't think that's cheating? No, I don't. How on earth is that not cheating? You're going out on romantic dates, potentially having sex with other men. That's textbook cheating. I was furious, struggling to contain both my anger and my frustration. This conversation was teetering on the edge of disaster. Trying to maintain her composure, Maggie attempted to defuse the situation. It was a tactic she often employed whenever I became upset, as if to demonstrate her superior civility. It wouldn't be considered cheating, she reasoned, because I would have your consent and approval. You'd be fully informed about who I'm seeing and what I'm doing. We'd discuss all the details when I got back home. Oh, my God! I exclaimed, each word laced with intensity. So not only are you proposing to cheat on me, but you also want to cuckold me entirely. How could you possibly think I'd agree to you dating or sleeping with someone else? What's happened to your sense of reality? Did you honestly believe I'd go along with this nonsense? George, please, let's try to have a calm conversation about this. There's no need for shouting or vulgar language. Please. I glared at her. Did you genuinely believe I'd agree to this? I knew it would be a lot to process, but you love me, and you're rational. You're intelligent. I assumed, and I still do, that you'll see the logic behind it and support me. Support you? Yes. While you sleep with other men? George, it's not just about sleeping with other men. If that's all I wanted, I could have done it years ago with countless men. Your brother, your friends, even your boss have all made advances at me. But I didn't. I would never betray you like that. But now you're suggesting it. No, darling, she interjected, attempting to clarify. This isn't about cheating. It's not just for me, it's for us. It's about bringing excitement, fun, and new adventures into our lives. Our sex life will thrive again. I'll feel alive again, and you'll be a part of it. We're in this together. What? You want me to accompany you on these dates? I quipped. Well, no, not literally together. I meant it more figuratively. You'll be at home while I go out. Then, when I return, I'll share every detail with you. I chuckled. Do you also expect me to clean up after him and swallow his? She blushed, visibly taken aback by my bluntness. It surprised me that she actually considered such a scenario. That would be a way for you to demonstrate your affection, she stammered. I'd sooner grow wings and fly, I replied coldly. Okay, we can skip that part, she suggested. Unless you're keen on destroying our marriage, we'll skip the entire ordeal. It won't destroy us. Your involvement with another man will. It won't be involvement, George. I reserve that for you. I love you. I don't love him. It's just sex. Just sex? I echoed, trying to comprehend. Yes, simply that. So, let me get this straight. Sure, take your time. You want to engage in just sex with another man, I summarized, carefully. If it comes to that, yes, she affirmed. Why? Why do you desire just sex with someone else? She faltered. I suppose for variety. To explore something different. Which implies I'm insufficient for you. It suggests I don't fulfill your sexual needs. You're unsatisfied with me and seek out someone else. Wait. No. Maggie objected. That's not true. I enjoy our intimacy. You're an excellent partner. I don't seek someone better. If that were the case, I reasoned, you wouldn't pursue someone else. The only reason for seeking just sex with another is to find someone superior. That's not accurate, she countered, without substantiating her claim. Indeed it is, I persisted. Consider this, if you adore sushi and have discovered the finest sushi place nearby, with 20 other options in town, why bother trying the others when you already have the best? She pondered for a moment before responding, to sample different varieties, perhaps. But why? If you found the best, why seek alternatives that likely won't compare? I don't quite follow, she admitted, looking crestfallen. If it's just about sex, then why seek it elsewhere? If you're content with our intimacy, if I fulfill your desires, then why not simply engage in more sex with me? But instead, you prefer to seek it with someone else, implying it's not just about sex or you're dissatisfied with our intimacy. You believe he might surpass me. I'm not sure, she confessed, appearing bewildered. You're confusing me, but it's not like that. Okay, so it's solely about sex, right? Yes. How many times must I say it? Yes. It's solely about sex. All right, if that's the case, I have a proposition, I said, grinning. She perked up, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. You do? What is it? If it's merely about sex, then I'm open to letting you explore. She seemed taken aback. Why you would? Yes, I'll arrange for a male escort to come and satisfy you, I proposed. He'll be skilled at pleasing women. I'll ensure he's well endowed, perhaps of your preference, and medically certified for bareback intercourse. Then, you can have your just sex. An escort? Why on earth would I want that? Are you out of your mind? Because it's just sex, I countered. If it truly is, then his identity shouldn't matter. He's merely an anonymous partner for your pleasure. Actually, this might be preferable. Since he's a stranger, there's no risk of emotional attachment. It'd be a no-strings-attached encounter. This way, you wouldn't risk developing feelings unexpectedly. You're making me sound like a prostitute. I don't want to engage with some stranger for sex. I need a connection. I'm not an object. Exactly, I stated with a smirk. Which means it's not just about sex. You desire more than that. You seek intimacy with a specific individual because of some connection. Her face flushed, and she struggled to respond. Finally, she uttered, all right, perhaps there's some truth to that. But it won't mean anything. I chuckled. What do you mean? It won't mean anything to whom? To me. To him. We're aware it's purely physical. He understands I'm committed to you and isn't seeking a relationship. And you truly believe it won't hold any significance for you? I do. If it's meaningless, then why pursue it? What? Maggie, you're contradicting yourself. Why engage in something you know has no meaning? If it's inconsequential, you wouldn't desire it. You're drawn to him precisely because it does hold significance. She buried her face in her hands, groaning, you're making my head spin. And it holds significance for me too. You're fully aware sex is the epitome of intimacy. When we married, we vowed to reserve that level of intimacy exclusively for each other. You're contemplating discarding that commitment to explore it with someone else. You seek to experience that intimacy with another person you share a connection with. You're dissatisfied with our intimacy and our sex life. You're seeking an upgrade. No, that's not it, she murmured weakly. So, you're anticipating that having sex with him will prove he's not as good as me? That he has a smaller dick than me? That he can't make you climax? She simply gazed at me. Of course not. I snapped. You wouldn't entertain the idea if you thought it might be the same or worse than what we have. You're intrigued by the possibility that it could surpass what we share. I don't know, she exclaimed. I never looked at it like that. You're confusing me. What happens when you return home after he's satisfied you more than I do? Have you considered that? She faltered, then paused. I never thought about it. What do you mean? I mean, how can you expect our relationship to remain the same when you've experienced better sex elsewhere? You claim it's to enhance our sex life. But if he outperforms me, you'll desire him, not me. And I'll be aware of it, especially when you offer me pity sex. How could we continue? We'll manage as before. How can I, Maggie? What do you mean? How can I, knowing I don't satisfy you enough to keep you at home? How can I kiss you, knowing another man's kisses surpass mine? How can I touch you, knowing his touch pleases you more? How can I perform oral sex, knowing you prefer his technique? How could I ever make love to you, knowing you fantasize about him? If he's better than me, how can you ever be content with me? I didn't commit to being your second choice. She met my gaze without reply. How can I compete when the odds are stacked against me? I find you stunning and cherish you. I believed we shared remarkable intimacy. I thought we were passionate together, but you're seeking something more thrilling. You envision the excitement of novelty, the thrill of infidelity, the danger. Even if we were evenly matched, you'd still perceive him as superior. He wins, regardless. She looked at me, speechless, and I was seething with anger. Who's been putting these ideas in your head? I demanded. George, please, she pleaded. Maggie, stop. George. No, this is bullshit. I'm not going to agree to you dating anyone. I'm not going to sit around while you go off with someone else. And if you ever thought I'd be okay with being cuckolded, you don't know me at all. She was stunned, tears streaming down her face. I'd never spoken to her like that before. George, you're overreacting, she said. No, I'm not, I replied calmly, but firmly. You're underreacting. Get out of my house. We're done. I'm not leaving, she said defiantly. This is absurd. I live here. I'm your wife. Fine, stay, I said, grabbing my keys. I'm leaving. Where are you going? She cried out. Anywhere but here. It stinks. Don't go, George. Let's talk. We can work this out. I paused, facing her. I'll stay if you promise to never bring this up again, to never go out with another man, and to remain loyal to me for the rest of our lives, just like we vowed at our wedding. Can you do that? She looked torn, on the verge of breaking down. George, please, I think it could help us. That's a no, then, I said, opening the garage door. Wait, please, I promise. I swear it. Just don't leave, she begged. I turned back, needing to say one more thing. I'll find out who's behind all this. If I find out you've already been seeing him or slept with him, we're done. We're not dating, George. We haven't done anything. But there's a we. Fine. Go be with your boyfriend. You probably already are. We haven't. I swear it. If you want any hope for us, no more lies, no more secrets. You discussed having sex with another man. So, this whole conversation, this whole situation, just confirms what I suspected. Your request wasn't about just sex with no meaning. You wanted my permission to be with a specific guy you've already planned things with. I'm disgusted, I told her, and she began to cry even harder. I can't even look at you right now. I'm sorry, George, I didn't think you'd react like this. He said you might be upset at first, but you'd come around. Upset? I shouted. Who is he? She hesitated. I glanced at the open garage door. By not telling me everything, you're choosing him over me. Stephen, she said. Stephen Archer. The consultant you've been working with for months? The guy from the dinner party at Julian's? Yes, him. We've been working closely, and we started talking. I needed to sit down. I closed the door, returned to the table, and faced Maggie. Tell me everything, I said. Everything? She asked. Yes, I want to know all about Stephen Archer and what's been going on, I insisted. She nodded. Can I sit? It's still your house, I said. She sat down, and then she told me everything. Chapter 3. I spent the next couple of hours listening to Maggie's account of Stephen Archer and his manipulation. It had been going on for months, starting slowly and subtly. He was careful not to push too hard, knowing she'd catch on if he did. So far, according to her, they'd only talked. She'd never kissed him. That was part of his plan. By not making any overt moves, she believed his intentions were innocent. He'd wait until I consented before making a move. By the time she finished, I was convinced of two things. One, my marriage was likely over, even if she cut ties with Stephen, and two, Stephen needed to face consequences. I needed a plan for both, but I had no idea what to do. I needed time. Are you still angry with me? Maggie asked. I don't know what I feel, I admitted. It's not easy to put into words. Part of me is hurt and angry that you consider what Stephen proposed. If you wanted to spice up our sex life, there were plenty of other options, like maybe not turning me down every time I tried to be intimate. Maggie looked remorseful. After a moment, she asked, and what about the other parts of you? I sighed. Another part feels sympathetic, knowing you were manipulated. It wants to forgive and move on. I'd like that, she said, smiling. Can we forget this ever happened? No, I replied honestly. Part of me wants to walk away and never see you again. I might be able to move past this, but it'll take time and effort. Maggie nodded, then asked, is there any part of you that even finds the idea appealing or exciting? Jesus, Maggie! I exclaimed. Are you seriously asking me that after everything I've said? I'm sorry, she said, looking down in shame. I'm sorry. So, what happens now? I don't know, to be honest, I replied. I need some time to think about what I want to do. The fact that you're still considering it says a lot. I'm sorry. Please tell me you still don't want a divorce. I don't know, but it depends on you, really, I said. If I find out you've lied to me, I will divorce you. If you don't shut Stephen down completely, I will divorce you. He's going to ask about it. What do I do? You need to figure out what to tell him. Do you talk outside of work? No, not much, she explained. We mostly talk at work. Stephen made a point of not getting in touch outside the office. But he'll ask about it tomorrow. I don't know what to say. Should I tell him to forget it? Of course, I said, thinking about how to deal with the man who wanted my wife. Is he married? I asked. Maggie nodded. Yeah, they just had their second kid a few months ago. Christ, Maggie! I exclaimed. And you were considering this? What about his family? Did you even think about them? He said they have an open marriage, she said softly. And you believed him? She blushed. Yeah, I guess I wanted to. Maggie, I said seriously, if we're going to save our marriage, you have to be on my side, no matter what. If you hesitate or take his side, forget it. We can divorce. I'm on your team, honey, Maggie assured me. You and our daughter are all that matter. Wait here, I said, fetching my laptop. I opened it next to her. Have you seen his Facebook page? Yeah, but he doesn't use social media much, she said. I handed her the laptop. Find it for me. After a few taps, she located it. There wasn't much public info. So, I went to LinkedIn and found more details. Do you know his wife's name? Janet, Maggie replied. I searched and found 2 Janet Archers. Does she work in real estate or IT recruitment? He said she runs a real estate agency, Maggie said. I clicked on the realtor's profile. A beautiful blonde smiled back at us. Is that her? I asked, staring at the wife of my wife's potential lover. I don't think so, Maggie answered. I've never seen a picture of her. But that doesn't look like the woman he described to me. He told me she was old, fat, and unattractive. I chuckled. Of course he did. This Janet Archer was young, fit, and stunning. I pulled up her Facebook page. Well, I said. According to her profile, she has a husband named Steve and 2 daughters, Selena and Catherine. Sound familiar? Yeah, Maggie replied as she looked at the photos. Those are Steven's daughters' names. I scrolled down and found a ton of family pictures. Some recent ones were from a cheerleading competition. There's Janet with her daughters, and there's Steve. Maggie gasped. That's him. No offense, Maggie, I said, pulling up photos of Steve and his wife. But why would he want to bed you when he has a wife like that? She looked hurt. Good. I don't know, she said, close to tears. That's not how he described her to me. You said they have an open marriage, right? I asked. That's what he said, Maggie replied, sounding unsure. I found some bikini photos of Janet and whistled. Maybe I overreacted, I said, staring at her pretty face. Maybe I've been seeing this wrong. What do you mean? Maggie asked. Do you have his number? I asked. Maggie looked nervous. Yes, why? No, I'm not, I said. You are. Maggie looked stunned. I can't do that. Wait, you said you were on my team, I reminded her. So, are you? Yes, I am, she admitted. Good, I said. Then call him. Okay, I will, Maggie agreed, hesitating. But can I ask why? I smiled. Well, Stephen wants to sleep with you, right? Maggie nodded. Well, if I'm going to let him, isn't it fair that I get to sleep with his wife? Chapter 4. Wait. What? Maggie exclaimed. You want to sleep with his wife? Well, look at her. I pointed at Janet in her bikini. She's hot. That's not happening, Maggie declared. I laughed. You wanted to spice up our sex life, right? Yeah, Maggie said, crossing her arms. I did. And you were going to do that by sleeping with Stephen, I said. So, wouldn't it be even spicier if I slept with his wife too? I mean, they're in an open marriage. Yeah, but, Maggie stammered. It wasn't about you sleeping with some woman. Oh, wait, I grinned. She's a slut? What makes her a slut? She's married to Stephen and can sleep with other men. You wanted to sleep with other men too. Doesn't that make you a wannabe slut? Maggie glared. No. It's not the same. Why not? I asked. How is it any different? And how is me sleeping with Janet any different from you sleeping with Stephen? She's too good looking, Maggie declared. So, it's okay if I sleep with someone ugly? I asked. No, I don't mean that, Maggie replied, looking defeated. It's just different. Are you worried I'll enjoy it too much? I suggested. Maybe. Or that I won't want you anymore after. I pressed. Maybe. Or perhaps you're concerned I'll think of her when I'm with you. I guessed. Yes, damn it. Maggie admitted reluctantly. I see what you're doing. But I thought we agreed to forget the whole thing. Yeah, but that was before I saw what she looks like and really thought about your proposal. Oh, so because you think you can sleep with a hot girl, suddenly you are in favor of me being with Steven? Maggie retorted. Hell, yeah, I said enthusiastically. Why not? You're being unreasonable, Maggie pronounced. Wait, I'm being unreasonable because I want fairness? You wanted to sleep with someone else. I'm just following suit, I reasoned. No, you're trying to sabotage what I wanted, Maggie accused. So, you wanted to sleep with other people, but you don't want me to do the same? I clarified. You're just trying to confuse me. I told you it wasn't like that, Maggie said, near tears. Maggie, let's talk this out calmly, I suggested. I'm starting to think this could benefit us. I don't want to do it, Maggie said firmly. You talked me out of it. I agreed it was a mistake. Let's forget it. Don't rush, I said, dialing Steven's number. Let's call your lover and see what he says. No, Maggie shouted. Hang up. Don't call him. Shoo, I said softly. It's okay, honey. It's ringing. I put the phone on speaker so Maggie could hear both sides of the conversation. A man answered in a whispery voice, Maggie, I told you not to call me at home. Hi, is this Stephen Archer? I asked, speaking clearly. There was a pause, then a click, and the line went dead. Huh, how odd, I said to my wife. We got disconnected. I better call back. Maggie tried to take the phone. Please don't do this. Hush now, I said, pulling the phone away. One might think you don't want to do this anymore. I don't. Hello, Stephen, this is Maggie's husband. Are you there? Yeah, I'm here. What do you want? Stephen said, sounding perturbed. Oh, is this a bad time? I asked. What do you want? He repeated, sounding angrier. Oh, well, I began. Maggie told me about how you suggested that you and she go out on a date. There was silence on the other end for several seconds. And, he finally said. And, I think that would be a great idea, I said. Maggie grabbed my hand and tried to interrupt. I shushed her and continued. I mean, with certain parameters and agreements, of course. Parameters and agreements? Stephen asked, sounding confused. Yes, I replied. I mean, if you're going to be involved with my wife, I want to ensure transparency. No secrets. Right? I guess, yeah, Stephen said, lacking confidence. I mean, the last thing we would want is to harm a marriage with lies and deceit. I love Maggie and don't want to lose her. So, I agreed, as long as we all discuss everything openly and are aware of what's happening. Understand? Sure, Stephen replied. That makes sense. Maggie stared at me with her mouth hanging open. When I looked at her, she shook her head and said, Baby, I don't want to do this. I waved her away dismissively. Great, I continued speaking to Stephen, then why don't you go get Janet and put the phone on speaker? What? Stephen asked, sounding shocked. Why don't you fetch your wife, Janet, the mother of your two daughters, Selena and Catherine, the woman you are in an open marriage with, so she can hear all the details? Listen, you jerk, Stephen growled, I don't know what kind of game you're playing. I cut him off. Stephen, I'm not playing a game, I told him. Maggie informed me about how you and Janet are involved in swinging, and you don't mind who she's with. We were looking at her bikini pictures on Facebook, and I have to say, I am going to enjoy my time with her while you're with my wife. You what? He asked sharply. I am going to be with Janet, your wife, while you're with Maggie, my wife. That's what swingers do, right? Wife swapping. You jerk, keep my wife out of this. Stephen demanded. Stephen, it's a little late for that. You've spent the past several months pursuing my wife. Wasn't Janet pregnant with Selena much of that time? Congratulations on her birth. I bet Janet's ready for some new experiences. Shut up, he shouted. I told you to leave Janet out of this. Oh, wait, are you telling me she doesn't know about your interest in Maggie? Aren't you both in an open marriage? I glanced at Maggie. She had her face in her hands and was crying. I heard a woman's voice in the background. Honey, what's the matter? Who is that? Nobody, it's fine. Get the girls ready to go, Stephen spoke to his wife. Oh, that's right, I began. Today is a big day. Catherine has a cheerleading tournament this afternoon. How do you know that? He asked. It's amazing the things you can learn on Facebook, I said with a chuckle. I have an idea. I waited for him to reply. It took a few seconds while he processed my words. What kind of idea? He finally asked. Why don't Maggie and I meet you and Janet at the tournament? Then we can discuss everything she's missing. After that, we can grab drinks, get to know each other, and then return here for the night. I'll even let you and Maggie use the master bedroom. Stephen's voice crackled through the phone, filled with venom. Listen, you stay away from my wife and kids. If I catch you near us, you'll regret it. Stephen, I chided. No need for such hostility. You agreed to transparency, right? That means Janet should know too, correct? Screw you, he spat. Don't ever call me again. Fine, I'll speak to Janet, I shot back before he could disconnect. Wait. Stephen barked. How did you get her number? Steve, that's not the issue, I said firmly. What matters is that everyone is aware of your actions with my wife. There was a pause, then he grumbled, What do you want? I want you to steer clear of my wife, I asserted. If I hear you've been around her, I'll tell Janet everything. Understood? Understood, he mumbled. But we work together. I can't avoid her entirely. Maggie will be away for 2 weeks, I explained. By the time she's back, you should have moved on. Just tell your superiors about a potential conflict and request a transfer. They'll understand. And if I don't, he challenged. I turned to Maggie. Call Janet and tell her everything. She looked bewildered. It was a bluff, but Stephen didn't know. I signaled for her to cooperate. Okay, she said tearfully. Wait. Stephen interjected. All right, I'll talk to them tomorrow. Good, I replied. Now apologize to my wife. I could sense Stephen's irritation as he reluctantly muttered, I'm sorry, Maggie. Never contact her again, I warned. Now, prepare for the cheerleading tournament. Best of luck to Catherine. I hung up, tossing the phone aside, and faced Maggie. She looked at me with remorseful eyes. Tomorrow, tell your boss about a family emergency and take time off, I instructed. She nodded silently. Now, undress and bend over the table, I commanded. Maggie hesitated, fear in her eyes. She complied, baring herself and bending over as I delivered a punishing slap to her exposed skin. You're mine, I declared, and proceeded to assert my dominance over her.